What's up? This is Jake with Hike 734, and Kristen and I are down in Zion National Park, and today we did the subway, which is in the Left Fork Trailhead, and it's actually a permit. We did the bottom up, which is not a canyoneering route, but we, instead of doing the top down, which requires rappelling and all that kind of stuff. But you start out kind of in the dry desert at the Left Fork Trailhead, and you kind of go along this ridge, and it's hot and not super interesting. And then you start switching back down into the bottom of the valley, and it's pretty steep. If you've done some off-trail stuff, this is basically feels pretty off-trail with a slight trail. And so as you kind of work your way down this steep trail, and then you get down to the creek and start working your way on up. And it's okay for like the first couple hours of hiking, and then it starts to get really cool as you start working your way up. And just one little tidbit of advice is don't be afraid to get in the creek. So make sure obviously you're wearing shoes that allow you to get into the water. But yeah, as you start to work your way up, it goes from being just kind of a little creek, and the walls start to get taller and closer in on you, and you start to get boulders and pools, and then finally you start working up to where it's just these like really great rock slabs and pools, and then finally it starts closing in till you get to really the terminus of this part, which is the subway, where the rounded walls come up and go right over your head and kind of give you this tunnel feel. And finally you get to the last part where you can go without needing some rope, and that is by this little waterfall. So overall, really, really cool, just lots of, I don't know, awesome stuff. And, anyways, like I don't know if I mentioned, but it is a permit. So whether you're coming from the bottom up and then going back, or if you're doing the top down route, you will need to get a permit. And there's a couple different ways to go ahead and get that. We did a walk-in permit and got one the same day, but we're going in the middle of the week, so it makes it a little bit easier. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start heading back out. It took us a little over 3 hours to get up here, and so I'm guessing about a little over 3 hours to get back. So anyways, this is the subway in the Left Fork, from the Left Fork Trailhead, and I am Jake with Hike 734. So a couple of last minute notes is, number one, it's really a big day. We're about ready to come out, and I just, if you're not familiar with like route finding, climbing over boulders, a few of those sorts of things, I mean, you'll be able to find your way, but just picking your way through it definitely will take a lot out of you. Also, make sure that you know what the flow is of the water, because we had a really low flow, which was great, because then, nothing really came above, I mean, really our knees or anything like that, although we could have gotten into some deeper stuff. But it could very well be where you have to swim and all that kind of stuff. So kind of know the temperature of the air, and whether or not you need dry suits and that sort of thing. And also, like we said before, you definitely need a permit, whether you're going up and back or you're doing the whole thing. And if you're doing the whole thing from the top down, you will need ropes. So yeah, I think that's going to cover most of them. The last thing is, of course, they talk about flash floods all the time. So obviously know the weather and whether or not you should even just be out. So anyways, if you can check off on all of those things and you get a permit, it's a very fantastic day. It's a little bit, really steep down at the very beginning and steep up on the way out. But when you start getting down to that valley and when it starts closing in on you, it's super great. And my last little thing is, don't be afraid to just walk in the water, because that's super awesome. So anyways, once again, I'm Jake with Hike 734, doing a little bit of the subway in Zion National Park.